We begin with a story that starts in the backwoods of South Carolina, where a young boy walking down a dusty path could only dream of things like brand new sneakers and a life beyond a broken down trailer. Rusty Cagle's upbringing was marked by financial struggle, yet those humble beginnings sparked a curiosity and determination that shaped his career. Let's take a look.
I'm Rusty Cagle, and this is my story on empathy and understanding in business. I am the CEO and founder of two companies, Empowering the Exceptional and also ASE Private Wealth. And what inspired me to write this story is to really deal with some insecurities I've had as I was growing up and even as I became a professional. Growing up, I actually felt like an outcast. At the time, it was the early 70s, and there was a lot of things going on that now I look back, I didn't know it, but there was high inflation, there were gas lines, there was desegregation. And I remember vividly, about 9 years old, my mom and I shopping in the Piggly Wiggly grocery store. And we had to go through a line where there was an assistant program for us because we were on food stamps. And I remember looking over and seeing one of my classmates and their mom and actually saying, "Do you know this kid?" Or they were saying something like that. Well, the next day, there was a group of kids that started teasing me that Rusty's on food stamps, Rusty's on food stamps. And actually, to make it worse, right after that, I went to the other line for lunch because I had to get free lunches. And so this had an impact on me. I really felt like as I was growing up, the only kids I really bonded with are tough kids from other economic times. I found some solitude with going into the woods, and there was a creek behind where we lived in our trailer park. I always became fascinated by the tadpoles and seeing those little rascals just swim around all over. And then later I found out that they actually transform themselves, metamorphosis, into a frog, right? They go from water to living on land, and that was always astonishing to me. I grew up on government-assisted programs, but now I help professionals with government incentive programs, because as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of opportunities that you can benefit from with programs that's available to you. And so now I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs take that metamorphosis with truly getting the most out of taking that risk being a business owner. 5% of the human population actually try to be entrepreneurs, and yet only 1% really make it to a level where they have an asset to sell. I had a banker who introduced me to a client. They were buying into a business, and after I got to know them, I figured out they also had a $1.6 million tax liability for that year. And so I ended up getting an attorney, I ended up getting their CPA, getting the deal structured in a different way so we still had the same economics, and yet we were able to help that client go from a $1.6 million tax liability to zero. And this shows the power for those who are uninformed and those who are informed. And by being informed and having collaboration, this client actually had zero tax liability for this year. And that is so powerful. Real quick, Scorpion the Frog. There was a big, massive flood, and the Scorpion said, "Hey, Mr. Frog, I need to get over to the other side." Frog said, "I'm not gonna carry you. You're gonna sting me and kill me." He said, "Well, why would I do that? We both would perish." Reluctantly, the frog put the Scorpion on his back, and as he got halfway over, he felt this sharp, piercing, stinging, and he said, "Mr. Scorpion, why did you sting me?" He goes, "Well, it's in my nature." When we're looking at advisors who help us, we want to make sure that they have the right intention. So a story that happened with one of my clients. He ended up getting an offer for $25 million for his heating and air business, but he didn't tell me because he thought he would jinx it. So when he finally did tell me, this particular client gave 10% of his gross revenues to charity. And I said, well, there may be some ways we can actually, out of 25 million, have 2.5 million that we can do that you won't be taxed on it and go to charities. So I got with a CPA, I got with another group to make sure we could do it. And he actually said, well, I want to give 20%. And so that's $5 million. And as we started going through this whole process with collaboration, one of his advisors, the M&A attorney, said, you can't do this, it's an S Corp. Well, those rules actually changed in 2011, and this was 2021. So that particular advisor said, well, if you guys are going to pursue this, I'm dropping out of the deal. And so now the client said, well, I don't want to ruin the deal. Let's go ahead and go through it, and I'll just make my charitable contributions after. This just shows that when you have collaboration and you have the right people, you can have greater outcomes. But sometimes if there's professionals there who potentially doesn't want to collaborate, then they could be like the scorpion and the frog. About 7 years ago, I read a book by James Clear, Atomic Habits. And he talked about how incremental gains can have such a substantial impact on individuals and teams and businesses. Einstein said the eighth wonder of the world is compounding interest. And a lot of times we refer to that from an investment standpoint in the power. Well, I actually think the ninth wonder of the world is something I created called a compound depletion effect. If we just take James Clear's principles of compounding, you can apply this to your personal life with nutrition, health, relationships, and business. And so if we really look at it from a business standpoint, most business owners pay more tax than they should. Most of them are overly taxed and they just want to be fairly taxed. And so when we really start looking at the compound depletion effect, what it has on privately held business owners over a 5, 10, 20-year time frame, it becomes millions, sometimes tens of millions of dollars that are lost just by not being informed of the things that are available to them. Around 7 years ago, by the same time, I actually started looking at why professionals didn't collaborate together. And I actually was falling in that same trap because with industry regulations, you know, a CPA he only gives tax advice. An attorney only gives legal advice. Banker only gives banking advice. And an investment advisor only gives investment advice. Yet when you follow that, when you're in a transactional type of relationship, then it becomes more about you getting the transaction than it is for the client. I said, we really need to change the industry. Instead of having a transactional relationship, we should approach this with a transformational partnership. Once you approach it that way and you get collaboration amongst all professionals, we are now more centered in for the client and their outcome, and all of us benefit with that whole process. And so there's going to be, in the next decade, $15 trillion of privately held business enterprise that's going to change hands, and yet 80% of that, 12 trillion, will either be lost or undervalued. And I think it's critical. And our mission is to change the industry on the way professionals collaborate together to serve clients so that they don't lose $12 trillion of value that they spent their whole lifetime working to be able to create. I'm a business owner myself. And anybody who takes the leap of faith to be a business owner, you feel like you're on an island a lot of times. You're having to wear a lot of different hats, making decisions. And so when you truly can connect with empathy and understanding, you truly get the full reason why they took a chance to start a business and pay others and pay taxes and all these other things before they actually get a chance to take any money home. And so when you truly understand the sacrifice and everything that they go through, it's critical so that they can make sure you're in trust and they know that you're looking after their best interest. And that's the key mission I think all professionals need to look at as we're serving the privately held business owners who truly, our U.S. economy, they're the backbone. And they employ 85% of the workforce. So it's critical that we do a better job becoming better advisors and collaborating together to benefit them.
Rusty reminds us that life's greatest lessons can often come from the most unexpected places. Even a simple frog can teach us about resilience, transformation, and thriving in changing environments. Rusty's journey from a young boy with worn-out shoes to a business leader empowering others is a powerful reminder that no matter where you start, it's about how you adapt, grow, and seize the opportunities around you.